Greetings and welcome to ValoU. I'm Zaladrith and I'll be your instructor for today. Today's class is Macro 202, Execute Phase. Simply put, executing is when your team commits to taking map control of a site to plant the spike. As a quick disclaimer, some rounds never get to the execute phase because everyone dies during defaults phase, or it's skipped with a sneaky unexpected plant, or an execute might fail and transition back into defaults. This happens often since it's the most dangerous phase for attackers because sites are the most valuable and well-defended locations on the map, since you need to push into defender map control. Defender's advantage is even more extreme when you only have one point of entry. This is because there's nothing else to split an enemy's attention. If you do a split attack on the site from multiple entrances from space earned during the defaults phase, defenders now need to divide their attention. Split attacks often send more people along the riskier route, usually through mid or some kind of connector, and fewer people on the safer route main. You want to be sure that everyone is coordinated and pushed together at the same time though, since one side getting delayed will allow defenders to deal with one side at a time. If executing was easy, then attackers could just send a few people to handle it, but since it's so high risk, attackers usually allocate every single player they can spare. This usually involves every single surviving player on the team other than perhaps the lurker, since even the flank watch will usually go in to maximize the chances of success. While defenders will have defender's advantage on the execute, attackers can only rely on numbers advantage to make up for it. However, this can only last until defender reinforcements arrive, which leads us to the next aspect to think about: time. If you can finish the execute in the blink of an eye, defenders wouldn't have time to rotate or use utility to interrupt the execute, and any defenders on site would be eliminated with no chance to escape. The execute begins as soon as defenders think that you're committing to the site, and ends when you plant the spike. The tighter you can time your execute, the more difficult it will be to counter. A common mistake is to just start running as soon as the base gates drop with all 5 members, thinking that you're rushing a site, but really you're just starting your execute from extremely far away. In general, it's far more explosive to start the execute from as close as you can before letting enemies know which site you'll be hitting, rather than starting the execute from so far away that you'll run out of gas before you even reach it. This is because enemies can just smoke or molly the site entrance without them even needing to peek, since you give them so much early warning with audio. Which brings us to the next topic, utility. An organized execute usually involves many things going on at almost the same time. Long-range util like smokes, scouting util, or maybe even mollies go out first to cut off and pressure enemies on the site. Flashes go out to break defender crosshair placement. Movement duelists use their utility to get onto site, creating additional entry points for defenders to worry about, which then paves the way for guns to enter. Attackers flood in with wide enough spacing to not get collided, but close enough to trade each other. Attackers eliminate enemies and fully clear all unchecked fog on the site, all as fast as possible to try to set up before additional defender reinforcements arrive. During all this, the spike carrier is usually the 3rd or 4th to enter. You don't want them to be first, since you might lose the spike in an unrecoverable location. The spike can go in last, but if a sentinel with flank watch util gets too far away from their setup, they might temporarily lose it, so it'll be faster for them to transition back to flank watch if they just play overwatch on the take instead. The planter decides a good plant spot, balancing safety with post-plant defensibility in mind, and the plant transitions the round into the post-plant phase. Defenders can try to counter the execute in a few ways. One is using utility right as the execute is happening to divide the enemy team, for instance, mollying the entrance after an enemy or two already enters, sometimes forcing the enemy team to abort and leave their teammates for dead. If attempting to stop a split attack, utility can be used to stall just one of the entrances to mess up the execute timing, forcing attackers to only enter with part of their force, or risk going through the util and being at a disadvantage. 2 is by attempting to hold by fighting to the death. This is often using defender's advantage and repositioning to at least try to isolate duels, or even better, get brief moments of numbers advantage as you trade other teammates on site with you. This can be a good option if reinforcements arrive in time to minimize attacker numbers advantage. Your path to retreat is completely cut off, you have a gun that would be more useful defensively than on retake, such as a shotgun, or your utility isn't that critical on retake and you have a decent chance to at least 1-for-1 if not more. 3 is a variation on 2 where you try to push through a portion of the enemy team, either with teammates or just with good timing, and is more likely to succeed when the enemy team is divided or low on numbers. This is a high-risk, high-reward play, as taking space aggressively can surprise enemies, and if successful, can position you well for retake in the post-plant phase, or even prevent the success of the execute entirely. But if you die quickly, then the site take will be even easier and faster. And 4 is falling back and attempting to retake once more teammates or utility is available, which is usually after the spike gets planted in the post-plant phase. Note that you don't always need to wait for your whole team or even for the spike to be fully planted to retake, since attackers are more vulnerable before they fully secure the site. The most important thing is to be coordinated in the retake attempt, but we'll cover these concepts more when discussing the post-plant phase. In summary, the execute phase begins when defenders realize that attackers are committing to a site. An execute is the most dangerous part of the round for attackers as they try to take away enemy map control and need to keep multiple entrances, numbers advantage, time, utility, guns, and the spike in mind when executing. Defenders can try to stall, hold, push, or fall back and regroup in order to counter the execute. And if the spike is successfully planted, the round moves into the final phase, the post-plant phase. That's all for today's lesson. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the lecturer or the TAs in the comments below. Thanks for attending, and we hope you enjoy your stay here at ValoU.
You will not kill my
Standing. Spike down B. One enemy remaining.
Kitchen lit
30
one time.
seconds left. Ten seconds left. Spike planted.
Oh, let's go. Nice job.
Nice.